Welcome into the Big Little Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig. The 2025 NBA draft has concluded, and Aaron Rodgers will have a pseudo-retirement tour, if you will. He claims that he does not want to be in the spotlight, but still, anyways, he had a Netflix documentary. So we're going to get into that and his final season that he will be playing in the NFL with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, the 2025 NBA draft. We're going to talk a little bit about winners and losers. You could just kick us off, start on whichever one you think is best.
Yeah, so the NBA draft happened, and a lot of big winners, or like maybe we'll see how they work out. You can never really declare someone as a big winner right after the draft ends, so you have no idea how these prospects will end up turning out. But obviously, the Sixers like landed the third pick in the draft a couple weeks back, and I think that just like vaulted them into a position where they had a lot of options. Obviously, it felt like the first two people in the draft were like solidified, and then you had the Ace Bailey situation where that just ended up not working out for a lot of people, a lot of different teams, and probably for himself going to the Jazz. But I wanted to highlight the Sixers as one of the bigger winners because that looks like a team that now, if Embiid like had like essentially like a full season out, if he can be healthy. Jared McCain was like one of the highlights before he got injured. They obviously still have Tyrese Maxey, and just going into this next season with VJ Edgecombe, like coming out of this draft, he is like a slashing product who is very good on defense. If he can improve his shot to like at least a decent level, it feels like they have a prospect where they can like build on like a solid base of guys for the next couple years. And I just like the pick in general, especially given the fact that like Ace Bailey kind of made it like clear that like he wasn't like he didn't plan on working out with them, and just like his whole situation, it just feels like a little bit toxic. So like avoiding that situation, getting a guy who like seemingly wants to play with them, and just like good overall prospect, one of the best players in the draft, I think was good for them. And they like with the East being so wide open this year, it looks like the Sixers have a good enough team where they can at least be competitive with the guys that were already on the team, and then including in addition, like yeah,
Yeah, like VJ Edgecombe. I
yeah.
think that they were in a good position because, or it felt like there was a little bit of a drop there because Charlotte ended up taking Colin Knippel with the fourth pick, and like with Ace Bailey kind of tanking his draft stock, that was the last team and the last player, the last little like marriage there that kind of felt like it worked at that position. So while dodging maybe a potential bullet in Ace Bailey, they got VJ Edgecombe, and it made sense where they were. And so I think that worked out. Also, I kind of like Janai Broom. I mean, maybe he could do something in the NBA. He's going to have to figure out the mobility issues. I don't know how if he's fast enough to keep up with some of the centers in this league, but he's going to have to figure that out. But that could be a potentially nice piece. We'll see how they end up doing in summer league. A plus that I think from or a team that I think had a net positive in this NBA draft was the Atlanta Hawks. I think just totally making that trade and getting an unprotected 2026 first round pick is a dub for them. And then Asa Newell, I don't know how you would pronounce his last name. Hey, it is what it is.
My guy.
Yeah, that's your guy.
I literally like before our draft episode, I said that like we like Asa Newell was the guy that like I thought could be like a later like pick steal.
Oh well, I thought he was a good pick too. So we went number 23 with them. I kind of forgot that you pronounced his name.
Yeah, I
But
was talking about the best player on Georgia last episode, bro. You already forgot it was like 2 days ago.
I'm the one editing everything. Of course, I'm gonna forget. I've got
I'm
like
sorry.
5 different clips from the last episode.
Okay, all right.
This has
You
gone
can
off
go
the
on.
rails, but I thought the Hawks did pretty well. Plus, they ended up getting Porzingis right before that, so we'll see exactly like how much minutes he'll get in the rotation. But I thought that they ended up having a good draft. Also, I think that the Brooklyn Nets, like as far as taking all or using all 5 picks in the first round, I think it's not something that you would usually do. I think that you would usually want to move off of them and spread it out over different drafts. But I think I give any credit to any of the organizations that want to stick by their guns and do what they think is best. And if they thought that was the best way to go, then it is what it is. Also, I believe 4 of those guys were foreign, so maybe they're not all going to end up playing in their rookie years right away. So
Yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to my Miami Heat for getting the steal of the draft and Kasparis Jaquinionis. That's how you pronounce his name. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't watch a single Illinois basketball game this past season, but actually that might not be true, but
yeah, we
still.
listened to some on the drive. I thought during the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, no, we I think we watched a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament,
Yeah.
and I like Definitely, like, I mean, he was on ESPN rated as the number 10 overall draft prospect this year, and he dropped all the way to 20. And the Heat, like, okay, one thing I do know about the Heat situation is the fact that we do need a guard. Tyler Hero was like facilitating, and we had guys come in and try to fill in that role, but like. We just didn't have a solid point guard this season. Tyler Hero isn't a one at like heart. He's a pure scorer, and he tried to play like the one at times this season, but it wasn't the greatest thing in the world. We have our bigs now. Khalil Ware was obviously a great pick for us. And then like just in general, like we've gotten the size that we need. We like Bam doesn't have to play the five anymore. He can like convert to his natural position, and it didn't like lead to the greatest things this year. Like we got swept in the first round, but I think that the addition of a guard, a bigger guard who can hopefully play defense and facilitate the ball, could be a really great thing for the Heat. And like just in general, the last couple of years, the Heat have done a really great job of stealing like later round picks and making or at least developing late round talent. Like we had Gabe Vincent for a while who tailed off after playing here. Tyler Johnson, if any Heat fans remember him, like just a lot of players that even Caleb Martin, like going other places and kind of returning to the Heat and playing really well in the finals run. Just in general, we've done really well with like later round talent, and then like the main highlights of that Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, or two of the guys we got in the later round, like later part of the lottery, who ended up turning into all stars for us. So in general, like the Heat have done a really good job. Jaime Jaquez very recently of getting guys later in the draft that maybe were passed on or looked to be a little bit like lesser prospects and developing them. So I'm excited for this guy, and we needed a guard, so I'm glad we got one.
I'm gonna go with two teams here. One a little bit higher than the other, but both I think that are they had positive drafts. I think the Spurs with Carter Bryant dropping all the way to them. I think that that's a dub. And then obviously the consensus number two was Dylan Harper, so they didn't have to deal with anything that was going on with Ace Bailey. I think that that's a solid draft. They kept both of those picks, so they're going to just move forward as a young team, and it looks like they've got a seriously nice core around Victor Wembanyama. I like that. And then also from the Utah Jazz perspective, I know that there's going to be a ton of buzz going around their relationship with Ace Bailey and what exactly is going to happen with that. He's going to play for them. He's going to play for them on opening day, and he's going to sign a contract. And if he ends up just not wanting to re-sign as soon as restricted free agency hits, he doesn't want to extend anything of that sort, then he played NBA basketball for them, proved what he could do, hopefully raise his draft stock, and they can get him out of there. And they also got Walter Clayton Jr., who I think is a really good player, who I think does have NBA potential. And so I think at the end of the day, you got a guy who had was rated higher than what you took him at, and could give you a ton of draft or trade capital. And you got another guy who could be a rotational point guard at the very least in the NBA. I think that that's a positive haul.
Yeah, no, I can't disagree with anything that you're saying. I feel like there was some like individual, like it's hard to say that like any team is a loser just because like in the draft like analysis part of this, if you want to even call it that, from like what like the perspective of what we do, like looking into players, like I you can't really project too much of like your feelings on players because like a lot of people exceed and a lot of people like just like kind of like crumble under the pressure of being an NBA player, and it happens. But I feel like some individual players lost out, and obviously like we're gonna get to it, but like the situation with with Ace Bailey
Yeah,
and
let's
just
let's
every
let's roll into Ace Bailey's
let's do
situation
it.
here. Yeah, because I think that this is something that you don't often see in the NBA. Obviously, there may be some players that try to like maneuver their workouts, but he wanted to drop a fair ways. So Ace Bailey drops all the way down to the Utah Jazz at number 5. That was not where he initially wanted to go. He's probably going to still play for them, just because it would be very unprecedented if he didn't. What are your initial thoughts on this entire situation?
Yeah, I just feel like like you mentioned at the top of that, being unprecedented is never something you want to do as an NBA draft, like prospect or just player, and like at least for the reasons that he is going to be unprecedented for. It feels like the Jazz were never going to be a great spot for him, and like most people wouldn't have projected him to go that low, but before he just started like going crazy a couple days before the draft, and it's an interesting spot for like him because like the possible destinations were the a contending Philadelphia 76ers team and like a couple other worse teams, but now you play on the Utah Jazz, who haven't been relevant since feels like the Gordon Hayward days and Donovan Mitchell, and like you also have to live in Utah now, so that kind of sucks too. And and just everything about the situation just feels so toxic. Like he's entering like the position of being an NBA player in like the worst possible way, and like there is no like pause. Like going into like this draft, I feel like everybody's like thought process towards him was either neutral or positive. He was like one of like the best rated prospects coming out of high school and even into this NBA draft. And now all the conversation is purely negative, which is not something you want to have going into your like rookie season in the NBA. And then also the situation just isn't like a great one with the Utah Jazz, like we were mentioning before. Like their just relevancy and everything about the Utah Jazz hasn't been great. And the Western Conference is as deep as it's ever been. Like there are a solid like eight, nine, maybe even 10 teams in the Western Conference that look to be like solid, maybe not solid contenders, but like real playoff teams. Like we saw it last year. Like the Memphis Grizzlies before they tailed off were like the A seed, and like they were a decent team before their head coach is firing. So you have to go to Utah Jazz team that is nowhere even close to that, and probably like a significantly worse situation than if you would have maybe just kept quiet and went to like the Sixers.
Yeah, this is a weird case of where is the reasoning? What is like the genuine thought process behind him and his representation for why he's dropping? And it's an unusual case of like you mentioned, like he didn't want to go to any teams that actually look like they could end up turning things around really quickly. Like the top three teams, like are all I think going to be in the playoffs next year. Like they're all looking really good, and he instead wanted to go to the Washington Wizards, the New Orleans Pelicans, or the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, you're dodging Charlotte and Utah. No,
Mhm.
no blame on those teams, but those were his picks, and he was going to lose out on a ton of money because I think without all of this, he would have went to the Sixers more than likely. And it looks like he dropped what I saw an estimate of like potentially $10 million. I don't know if that was like what he ended up dropping because obviously the Jazz took him, but he's sacrificing money and he still didn't get what he wanted. Just not a play that I think makes any sense. And you're avoiding playoff teams. I'm just confused by the situation. But here's what I think about this is this was such a risky scenario for a reward that I didn't really see being there. So he goes in and says, he's probably going to be the second or the third pick. I know Dylan Harper kind of ran away with the second pick, early in the process, but you never know. I mean, he said he wasn't going to work out for the Spurs, but you're right around that slot. You're probably not going to drop past 3. You got the edge over VJ Edgecombe, like at the start of all of this. And at the very least, you're not going past Charlotte, right? Instead, now you want to go even further down from that and to get to a point that you want to like get to a team that you want to play for, you tank your reputation, you lose money, and you probably go to the worst team out of all of the groups, right? Because you don't really want to go to Utah. Like I don't think Utah is as dysfunctional as Charlotte, but like you don't want to live in Utah. There's the outside feel. I'm serious. Like there's an outside feeling with a lot of NBA players, like that the Utah culture and whatever's going on there, like it's not as attractive to a lot of rookies who haven't been to that area. And it was very possible that could have happened, that they were going to take you anyway, and you still went with this plan that didn't make any sense, that didn't have a reward. So I am just genuinely confused as to how they thought that this was going to work, that they were going to really be able to strong arm NBA teams. And maybe if Charlotte was that poor, maybe they would have been okay and they would have taken Con Knipple or whatever. But he was just falling too much. Like he was going to be second or third, and you're not going to go past fifth in that scenario. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, because his talent is just too high for like teams like the Utah Jazz who are rebuilding and could use somebody like him for them to really pass up on that. I mean, Charlotte is like probably in a similar situation and they end up passing up on somebody like for somebody who like his ceiling could be great, but like we'll see. I feel like he's like a lot more of a prospect, and I feel like a lot of the players farther down are. I feel like the top 3 players in this draft or top 4, including BJ Edgecombe, were the more solidified draft picks, and you just knew that like those like he wasn't falling to 8. Like he wasn't going to the Nets. Like that just wasn't gonna happen. Like somebody's gonna pick him up before then. And it just or like even like 7 to New Orleans felt like a little bit of a stretch as well. So like if you're gonna like diss on all these other NBA teams, then like you are probably gonna find or at least the Sixers, you're probably gonna find yourself in a situation that's significantly worse. And it just like again, like we've been saying, it just doesn't really make any sense because like what is so bad about Philadelphia? Or like I never got the
Yeah,
reasoning
I
behind that.
didn't understand it either. Like, I don't know if it was like he wanted to immediately get a ton of play time. He wanted apparently to stay on the East Coast, but Philly's pretty close to that area. So, like, I don't know what like I mean, obviously Brooklyn is the closest. Like, if you want to play for Brooklyn, that's fine. But you know, when you watch the lottery and the ping pong balls fall and you see the envelopes come out and you see them at number 8, you have to start thinking about something else
And
because
you
there's too many
also
landmines in the way. You have dysfunctional franchise in Charlotte that you could get caught if you try to tank your draft stock. You have a team in Utah that you just don't want to go there. Maybe like you don't want to live there. And then you have Washington, dysfunctional as well. Like, dude, that's 3 major landmines that why would you want to risk going there to or risk taking your draft stock to get all the way down to Brooklyn if those are the potential options when you could just get picked up by the 76ers? It didn't make any sense to me.
yeah, you also have like you go from possibly like not like and you go from the Sixers who are on the East Coast to the Utah Jazz who are in the Midwest. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like the argument of like staying on the East Coast because I mean I don't know if like geographically I know Americans aren't the most sound, but even like for our own country, bro, like the Utah is like pretty farther to the west than Philadelphia is. Like I don't understand the logic behind that at all. And like you can understand maybe the playing time thing. Like you definitely like maybe start off in a lesser role alongside like 3 other guys that like have established themselves, or maybe Jared McCain maybe less so establishing himself, but like a 2 solid guys in Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, who
I
you
mean,
know.
that's it. I mean, I don't this is a draft where those top 3 teams like all could
Have we seen?
they
Yeah.
could get to the second round. Like I
Mhm.
know I'm not projecting or predicting, but like their peaks aren't just make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
But all 3 of those teams can make it to the second round, especially I mean, shoot, the Sixers if they're healthy with the way that the East is looking right now, they can make it to the second round. The Joel Embiid is healthy, that team is different. And you join in that your rookie year, I mean, that's an amazing situation. You play with Victor Wembanyama, you're playing with the best player in the league for the next 12 years. And then,
And
I mean, obviously, you're not playing on the Mavericks, but like you have all these teams at the very top, and they're all playoff teams. Like that is such a great position. Why are you forcing yourself to be with these bad teams? You're still going to get playtime if you're a dog. Like if you're
yeah,
that good, like you're still going to get PT. Like I don't know what he's stressing about.
and
Like
at the
legitimate and
very
more money and more money.
That's what I
Sorry
wanted
about
to
it.
say.
Yeah.
At the very least, you're losing millions of dollars doing this, and it's also like you were saying, like this might be the most top heavy the top of the draft has ever been. Like you have 3 teams that genuinely are playoff contenders at the start of next season with the additions that they've made. Like he was never going to the Mavericks, so let's count them out. But the other 2 teams in there, it's like the Sixers. Like the Eastern Conference has like 2 good teams, right? 3 good teams right now. If you want to throw the Magic in there, like so the 3 teams that you think are going to be really solid going into next season. Like everybody else, it's kind of just a toss up as to see like what happens. And then you have like, dude, like you have the Spurs who like were just bro, like they're gonna be good. Like Victor Wembanyama is gonna come back, and like pairing alongside that, like it probably wasn't gonna happen that way either. But still, like I. So the clear destination is Philly. I just don't understand like what like I never got the reasoning behind like what the explanation behind not going there is because you get to make more money, you get to play on a better team, and like I'm still doing the geography myself, but like Philly, Utah, bro, like what?
Also, like I'll give you this: like Philly is stacked. Like they got plenty of depth. Like they paid Tyrese Maxey, obviously Jared McCain. Like probably would have won Rookie of the Year last year if he didn't get hurt. Like I get it. Like the backcourt is looking good. But if you look at the order of this draft, like it didn't even really work. If that makes sense, like it didn't. Like your plan, like was foiled like almost immediately because Charlotte like was probably looking at you, and they kind of gave you what you wanted, but they probably looked at it like, oh well, we're not going to deal with this. We already got LaMelo Ball, like so we have like a guy who we think is a franchise player and like a super high volume kind of dude. So we'll just take Con Knipple and then go from there. Like I think they just kind of gave in, but like they had like who they think could be their number 1 on their team. So like I don't even really count that because then after Charlotte, you have teams that don't have like a number 1 for the future, young player that they've paid, and like you know they are even trying to build around. Like you got teams that are trying to actively like on a full rebuild in the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz. I mean, I don't even know what the Pelicans would have done, but I definitely think they'd draft you because they're trying to take their team to the next level as well. Like there was no shot you were getting down to Brooklyn. Like this plan didn't even work like at all.
Like hypothetically, like there's just no
Yeah.
way that yeah. And then also it's just like you were saying before, like we're kind of running in circles here now, but like
Yeah.
dude, like I just want to make one last point. Like if you're good enough to be the number three, possibly the number two overall pick, and then in the NBA draft, like you have like your talent is undeniable. Like bro, if you are good enough, if you are like that player, then you like there is no worry about playing time. Like it'll come. Like the money will be better, and also like you get to live in like a pretty sick city and be on a championship contending team possibly. So I just don't. I feel like the gist of what we're trying to say is that it just doesn't make any sense from any angles, and if something else comes out that like clarifies a little bit, that would be really helpful because right now it just looks really dumb.
Oh man, we talked a lot about Ace Bailey. Like we really kind of went off on that plan. We'll see how long that ends up being. But Aaron Rodgers, he's got one more year left in the NFL. Gosh, doesn't this feel like an end of an era, so to speak? So he's going to play one more year with the Steelers. They're going to try to go for one last run here. What is? Do you have predictions here, maybe for his final year? How do you think this is going to play out? What do you think this retirement tour looks like?
Yeah, well, first I want to take my victory lap around this because of
Oh
the
my
fact that early on into this process, we were talking about a lot of different teams, and I said the Steelers look like a team where Mike Tomlin is the guy that he's had high praise on for a couple years now, and just in general, like it seems like one of a functional organization that he could kind of like settle down in, and the pieces around him also aren't terrible. You have George, like not George Pickens anymore, but you have DK Metcalf now, and you could have had George Pickens possibly if they like sign whatever. Like the team around him, the Steelers are always going to be good, right? So you have a solid franchise and you have the coach that you'd want. So I just can't see their ceiling being higher than like an 11 win team. I also don't see it being lower than 500 just because of their coach. But I think that like this team could be like a
Am I
wild card, a
am I
wild card
crazy
team.
for thinking that they could be a team that competes in the playoffs? Like,
Yeah,
is that kind of crazy?
yeah, you are definitely a
They
little crazy
didn't
for
have a
thinking.
QB last year, and I still thought they were like mildly competitive. Like I still thought they were pretty decent. So like you just insert Aaron Rodgers, who I think is going to have a pretty decent year, like one final year. I mean, I'd like to think that they're going to be better than they were last year. So just in general, that would kind of bring me to the conclusion that they'd be able to compete
Yeah, I can
mildly.
I can understand that thought process, but I don't know that I love Aaron Rodgers like significantly more than I love Russell Wilson right now. And I know that's like kind of crazy to say,
No,
but like
I don't think it's
I,
crazy. I see
I
where you're coming from.
yeah, and that like I don't know, that Jets team was just like so uncompetitive last year for like not like all the reasons that you'd think. Like the quarterback play was an issue, and sometimes it just wasn't there for him. Like, so he'd have amazing throws, and the Devontae Adams connection worked like a charm, like it usually does. Like I had Devontae Adams in my fantasy football league, and he damn near won it for me. So I appreciate like everything that he was doing for him. But like they just weren't winning football games last year, and that Jets team, I would say like from top to bottom is like a worse team than the Steelers team. But still, I don't think that they are going to win the AFC North, and I don't see them like making it past the first round of the NFL playoffs this year.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to sit here and say, especially with the way that the AFC is, that the Steelers are going to make it out for sure of the wild card round. But I think one last season, Aaron Rodgers potentially like really just putting his body out there all on the line. Not that he doesn't go 100% every single season, but when you determine that this is your last season, and I believe him when he says this, I think he's fed up. I think he's tired because this took a while for him to agree to go to the Steelers. I think that it does bring an extra level of I'm not going to leave anything out there for all 17 games, all 18 weeks. I'm going to go fully in with what I can do. And I think that this team looks pretty good. And I think a lot of the core for the Steelers is also on the same kind of timeline right now, where it is we haven't had a QB for the last handful of years. Like we almost went into this season with Mason Rudolph. Like we didn't draft a QB. Like this is what we got. This is all hands on deck this year. I think there's not a lot of teams that can truly say that. And the NFL is very tough to predict year to year. If they do win 11 games, they're not going to get like a home field advantage or a bye, but like that could put them in a really good spot. And I don't know if it'll be enough to win that division. That division is going to be very, very competitive, but that puts them in a decent spot. And they competed hard in that playoff game against the Ravens. Like I thought that they were a good team, and it really felt like, as much as we might say that the quarterback play for the Jets was part of the issue, the Steelers quarterback play was like the main issue for the Steelers last year. So I think that if you change that, that's a huge deal for a team.
Yeah, and I wanted to push back on that a little bit, but like I agree to like an extent. I feel like towards the end it like started getting really bad because like I mean Justin Fields went out and like went undefeated for a little bit there, and then Russell Wilson experiment like lasted for a couple games where he had like a decent enough games where the defense behind him was able to like kind of propel that team to some wins as well. Obviously towards the end of the season they just completely tailed off. What they go like from weren't they like 11-3 at one point last season? Or like something like that, where they
Yeah.
just had a really great start to the season and then just tailed off towards the end and couldn't do anything against Baltimore's defense. So I want to say that they'll be better this year, but like still, what does that put you at? Because I feel like the Bengals like they have like the second, third best quarterback in the league. So like you never want to count them out. So at the very best, they're the second best team in their own division. I don't think that they're a better team than Baltimore at any stretch. And that puts you at a position where you have to go on the road to the playoffs. And then do you have them over the Bills? Do you have them over the Chiefs? Do you have them over the Ravens, who they'd be losing their own division to, or possibly the Bengals? And then the AFC South is obviously that division where you kind of like find a little bit of cracks in. But even so, like I feel like that is the matchup that you'd probably want the most going into the season, like the AFC South division winner. But yeah, no, I just can't see like those top three teams kind of being dethroned. It feels like for like an extended period of time now, it's like the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens like kind of conference to lose, and I don't really see the Steelers making any rumblings towards that.
I think it's tough preseason to say that they can really compete with a team like the Chiefs or the Bills or whatever ceiling the Bengals might have. But the Bengals are dealing with their own problems right now too.
Yep.
And I think within a division, playing in the playoffs for the third time in a year does give the lesser team, I think, a slight advantage. I think it gives them a chance to close the gap a little bit. Like while the other team has seen you as well, and you're not throwing anything new. I think it being flipped as well, vice versa, considering that the better team isn't able to show as much new stuff to the worst team. I think it closes the gap, and I think it's more of an advantage for the worst team. So I'm like more open to the Steelers competing in the playoffs against a team like the Bengals, who's dealing with a lot in the offseason, and a team like the Ravens, who it's a rivalry, obviously. So I'm more open to it, but like. Yeah, I'm not going to pick them over the Bills or the Chiefs. Like that's just really difficult. And obviously, you're watching some of the other really good teams, like the Chargers. Are they able to take another step forward? Broncos, what are they going to be this year? And
Dolphins.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Quinn
like
Ewers
with
leading the way for the Dolphins.
no, Tua Tagovailoa, gunslinger, they're calling him this offseason, bro. He's put on some weight. But
I'm just happy
uh,
he's still alive.
yeah, no, me too. But yeah, Quinn Ewers could be the future for the Dolphins. But I also want to just like jump all the way forward really quickly and like project out what that would even mean if like the Steelers were like at the top of that division, or not even at the top of that division, but were able to play like either the Bengals or Ravens like for a third time and possibly beat them. Like, how bad would that be for like Joe Burrow? Like, would you sort of have any questions about like where he's been since that Super Bowl run, or Lamar, like where like he still hasn't been to a Super Bowl and has all these MVPs, but like still hasn't done it in the playoffs? Like it feels like if the Steelers are good like this, like last year, obviously it'll only be 1 year, but like still like that, like the conversations around like Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson start getting a lot more dramatic, and I think even to like a lesser extent Josh Allen too.
I mean, yeah, Josh Allen for sure would be lumped into that because I think we're already starting to look at our watches a little bit with Josh Allen. Like, oh my goodness, how many years is this going to be to go down against the Chiefs? Like, this is getting really bad. I think Lamar Jackson would be in the same sort of situation because I think both those guys they're going to stay with the same franchise. I think for Joe Burrow, we're looking at it like you're not looking at your watch, you're looking at the duration of the contract that he's got with the Bengals. Because with what they're doing straight up, like with what they're doing in the offseason, like I don't know if like he's gonna retire a Bengal. Like I'm really starting to question whether or not that's a possibility. And if you go down to the Steelers, obviously they're not going to be a team that's there for the next 4 years, especially if it's Aaron Rodgers is truly out and done. But it kind of stings because it's like that. This team, popped up out of nowhere in a sense because they were able to get Aaron Rodgers, not out of thin air, but they were able to compete because they got one player to sign in the offseason, and then they beat you in your prime when you're supposed to be competing for Super Bowls. I think that would almost sting more. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to go out like John Elway or Peyton Manning. Like I don't know if that's in the cards for him. And I would say obviously more likely not than it would actually happen, but I think it'd be an interesting conversation. And if it happened, I think it would put him in a pretty good spot. Like, I don't know if I'm guessing more people rank Aaron Rodgers ahead of Drew Brees. I don't think that that's very controversial. Obviously, Drew Brees could have, used a couple MVPs during his time, but I think it vaults him up to a nice all-time status. And I think it brings a better feeling when Aaron Rodgers walks off with the Super Bowl ring. And so maybe I am a little bit biased. Like, I'd like to see his career end nicely, because over the last 4 years, it just seems like it's been that Brett Favre saga. It's amazing how it's like a cat's in the cradle kind of thing.
Yeah, I also like just talking about the AFC North. It makes me feel so bad for Browns fans because of the fact that like they're not even like a part of that conversation anymore. It felt like their future like could have possibly seemed so bright after like I mean before everything went down with Deshaun Watson. Just like in general, like they could have had a positive trajectory with Baker Mayfield and that whole situation. They were like at least a solid like playoff contending team, and now they sit at the bottom of a division that is constantly every single year feels like it's always competitive. Like the Ravens, like the Bengals to a lesser extent, like they've had their ups and downs, but like the Ravens and Steelers are like it feels like are always good, and then they have just always been like towards the bottom of that conference. It feels like they were kind of like climbing upwards, and now they are just stuck right back at the bottom of the conference or division.
Well, hey man, with Shadur Sanders, bro, like they're gonna be all right. They're in good hands, man. I'm not giving up on that. I like Shadur Sanders. Like I think at some point we're gonna see him start a game in his rookie season, right? So like we're gonna know, what they have in him pretty quickly, I'd imagine.
Oh, you're being serious.
I mean, not like this year, but I think Shadur Sanders is an NFL QB. Like I do,
No,
and he's gonna start a game this year, so we're gonna know if I'm right or not.
we'll
I think
see.
I'm more.
Yeah,
I think if you had to like,
you just said that
which is
like
more likely, like, oh, I was being slightly tongue in cheek, like, for
yeah,
this year,
okay.
but like, if we're talking about whether or not it's more likely or less likely that he's going to be an NFL QB that helps the Browns be more competitive in this division, I'd say it's more likely.
You don't believe in Dylan Gabriel.
I do know. I watched him at the Senior Bowl. I don't think he's an NFL QB.
That is so funny that they'd even do that then. Like, what it was the dirt on Shador Sanders? Like, I feel like that was never even really unpacked. Because for him to go in the fifth round under guys like Dylan Gabriel, who went in the third, like, what is even the thought process between taking a QB in the third and fifth round that you both think that can be guys? Like, I'm still that the draft process for the Browns still like makes zero sense to me. And then you have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett just floating around for them too.
Yeah,
Which one of those guys has to go? No, like, can they keep four quarterbacks on a roster?
yeah, one of
Or
those guys has to go, and I think it's. I mean, I'd
Kenny
cut Dylan
Pickett?
Gabriel.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think it'd have to be Kenny Pickett now
But he's not
because
getting cut. Neither of the rookies are getting cut. I think Kenny Pickett would get cut. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the Browns' thought process was. I think at that point, if they were really looking to take a QB, they should have just pulled the trigger and taken Shadur Sanders. I hate the Shuck pick, but at the very least, he's older, so there was like an idea behind what the Saints were doing when they took him. So there was kind of something there. But yeah, all
that was
right,
blunt.
huh?
I hate the Shuck pick. That was pretty blunt.
I don't think he's an NFL QB whatsoever. Like,
Okay.
and I think we're gonna know about 4 games in,
Yeah, yeah. No,
if
I
that.
don't.
I mean, that's actually like I'm giving like the benefit of the doubt. I will be thoroughly shocked if he is a starter in this league for 5 years. Isn't that the point of a second round pick, for him to be your starting QB?
Yeah, yeah. I would say so.
Yeah, not for 10 years. Give me 5. I don't think he can do it.
All right.
And zero offense to him. Oh, okay. Do we got anything to that we need to get off our chests here? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Anything on your mind? I sent you something the other day that was talking about they're talking about increasing the teams for the NCAA tournament and March Madness. I forgot the exact number. I can't remember if it was 72 or 76.
76.
76. Bro,
Don't
who
do it.
wants to see that? Like,
So
genuinely, like, who
I
actually wants to see that?
like as someone who's like kind of pseudo team like was on the bubble this year in UCF, like I like like it obviously like gives you more of an opportunity, but like that team didn't like deserve to make it by the end of it. And if you can't be one of the 68 best, like I obviously know it's more like the 32 best because you have a bunch of like conference tournament or like yeah, conference tournament winners that end up making it in like bid steal and whatever. But still, like you don't like none of those teams towards the bottom like that. There's a reason why the lower seeds don't do well in the tournament. Like those teams aren't going to win the championship, and there's like no point in expanding it. Like it is good for like smaller schools and like smaller markets and whatever, but like it's just like I don't need any more. Like I just like I just don't like personally. And I love March Madness. Like I literally like every weekend during March Madness, like I will turn off everything else that I'm doing and just straight up watch like March Madness, sit on my couch for hours and watch it. But like it just feels unnecessary. Like if you like there's just
Weren't
no
we
need for it.
just weren't we just talking about how upsets are dead? NIL and the transfer portal has killed the Cinderella. Like, weren't we just talking about that? So why are we adding teams?
Yeah,
Why are we
dude.
doing that? Like, and also, like you said, like those teams, like even though they have a chance, like later in the season, like they don't really deserve to get in. Like, there's not like an issue where like, oh shoot, they lost like that one game like late in the
Mhm.
year, or they lost a couple. They had like a losing streak like in December, and they were never really in it. Like, no, like you have plenty of teams that win 18 games and then make a massive run in their tournament and they get in. Like,
Mhm.
there's still that kind of ability and opportunity for these teams. So, because you have 64 or 68, so you still have teams that end up getting a chance at this, like a chance to be the Cinderella, the story of March.
Mhm.
Why increase it? And this is where we're
Yeah.
headed for college football. I hate to say this too, bro. Like, I am so done hearing about the SEC and the Big Ten can't come to a resolution, or they're talking about 14 teams. They're talking about 16 teams. They can't come to a solution. They scrapped everything for 2026. Oh my God, bro. When are we
Yeah.
going to decide on like how this sport is meant to crown a champion? That's all it should be. We
Yeah.
They're making money, like they're making more money they can even handle. And now we got a salary cap. Like,
Yeah, no,
like
I
we're
don't.
professional sports. Like, let's not go crazy here, bro. I don't know. That's just I got to get that off my chest, bro.
Yeah, no, I mean I agree for the like yeah, I agree like almost completely. It just doesn't make any sense because like the like the point in adding new teams is like to give more people an opportunity to like to give themselves a shot, I guess, right? But like there is no shot. Like any of those teams that like even the teams that get snubbed, like it's not like they have like a legit it doesn't ever feel like they have a legitimate like any of those teams that just feel like they got snubbed from making the tournament. But are any of those teams like, oh yeah, we're a serious championship contender that like at least for like you can make an argument with like in the football side, like Ole Miss last year, like felt like maybe they had a chance at really contending. They played a really tough conference. But for basketball, like it's already like there's probably already like 20 teams that have legitimately no shot that already make it. So like there's just no reason to expand it. And I love the format right now. Like I just don't need more college basketball. Like and low key by the end of March, I'm tired too. Like I've consumed so like my days are just like so empty and I'm just like watching basketball so much, but like by the end it's like a little bit draining. So like I'm good where it's at.
Also, what about the student athlete? When are they going to have time to go to class?
Exactly. College sports just aren't about just the sport, bro. Some of these guys are gonna be future doctors and lawyers, bro. Like, do you really want
Oh,
them?
okay.
Like, okay, all right.
Some of them, maybe. Like, I mean, I'm just being real. Like,
You disregarded that
not the ones
so.
who go all the way to the tournament. I was being more sarcastic, but there's always one person who says like they're not in class for a month and a
I mean,
half.
you see
Like
that
how can like
commercial? Yeah,
uh-huh.
have you seen that commercial where it's like almost everyone goes pro in something besides sports? Like that's what I was like thinking of.
I would hope so, genuinely.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you make
I
a
mean,
ridiculous amount NIL and then like, you know, you come out with your degree, no debt. I would hope you made something of yourself like after the fact. If you don't, you failed yourself. I don't know. Like, who else do you want to blame? Sorry,
yeah.
I'm getting a little bit a little bit crazy, going
You're like
crazy here. I
you're
mean,
like a
also
crew lead at
nobody was crying during the NBA draft. They all have made it.
yeah.
That's why Ace Bailey didn't want to make those, make up the $10 million that he ended up
Has he already
losing
made
and
it in
stuff.
college?
Yeah, shoot, he already had a ton of money. He's been making money since his sophomore year. He dunked on somebody in his AAU circuit like on a Saturday morning and got like 60K from that. Like, and the
Got paid
next
a
day
hundred thousand dollars.
went to go to like algebra two
Yeah, right.
sophomore
Yeah,
year. No, I don't remember if that was sophomore year for algebra two.
Yeah, no, dude, I could just imagine like some like 6 man on the bench just being like a McDonald's worker like after, and it's just like, damn, like those really were the
Because
good
you
old
don't even really
days.
have to pay attention in class either. So like that's what's scary about it. Like you could just not pay attention, like have your degree, make a transition to another company, and then like just like use AI or something for like that job that you never really learned how to do, and like you should be okay. So there's no reason to go to McDonald's.
We've just completely gone off the rails.
I know
Hell
we
yeah.
we have, but like if we still have the Aaron Rodgers lower third here.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, if you watch this far into the podcast, you're a real one. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no, actually.
There's just like no reason to be watching at this point. Like we could essentially have the live off. But yeah, hey, thanks for watching, guys.
Did you have anything else?
No, 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 that was pretty good. I feel like we covered everything here.
I think we did too. All right. Well, we're going to be back in a certain amount of days that I am unaware of the amount of. So we'll be back with more. This has been Patrick Previty. He's Andrew Greig. This is a big little podcast. Thank you guys so much for watching.